morning. Good morning, Tish.
Good
Tish,
morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mario Hardigan, and I'm with me is Tisha Joyner. And what today we're going to talk about with behind the scenes with event planner coordinator or decorator is we're going to talk about the usage of the space of a venue and how to select a venue. So so Tisha, what is the thing that you do when you're helping clients select a venue for their event?
Honestly, I was thinking about something as soon as you start talking. One thing is, it's hard to figure out what comes first, the egg or the chicken, right? The
Right.
whole old saying, right? So I was thinking about, clients have to decide on how many people they're going to have, so they know what size venue to select. But all that depends on the middleman that nobody mentions, which is the budget. So
Right.
there's a lot of factors into that. If a client comes to me and says, "Well, we have about 100 guests," in my mind, that translates to 13 tables for guests. We start calculating the space that we're going to have to use for different things.
Right.
Um, then you'll pick a venue that hosts 200 people, which could be great and spacious, but it might be too much space. You know what I mean? So it
Mhm.
gets kind of winky wonky with people sometimes. I have had people that will pick a venue that can only hold about 100 people and they want to force 125 up in there, and it
Right.
doesn't really work well. So it's hard for me to say what should come first, the numbers or the venue, but I feel like they just really go hand to hand. You really got to consider how many people are you actually expecting to be there, not necessarily inviting, but expecting to be there, and the venue and what it will hold comfortably. And
Right.
just because it says it holds 200 does not mean it's going to be comfortably. It
Right.
does not mean that we're not going to be bumping against each other trying to get around the. You got to make it spacious. It's got to be where people can walk freely, move around freely, get to the bathroom without it, or an incident or whatever like that. So, what do you recommend to your clients? Because I always tell them, think about how many people you expect to be there, and be reasonable when you're looking at these venues, because
See
you got to
me,
leave room.
what I pretty much look into is like, okay, what how many people are you expecting?
Hmm.
What type of activities do you plan on doing?
Hmm.
Are they going to be dancing or is it just more of a dinner? Like that's a crucial factor because what some venues don't tell customers is they can say they have 200 max, but that 200 max is you won't have a dance floor.
Hmm.
So those are things that people have to say. So where you have some venues that have a dance floor built in, and they'll say we could do 200 max, and we don't have to put everybody in the dance floor area.
Hmm.
So those are things critical, important things. And then if it's going to be then the caterer, how much spacing does the caterer need? If it's buffet, how many? All that ties into how much space is required. And then you have your DJ or your entertainment. How much space? I mean, if you're going for DJ or if you're going for band, how much space do they need for their setup? So all those are critical and important factors. And me, I always tell my clients is go with a venue. If you're going to do 100, go with a venue that can hold 150 or 200
Hmm.
because then you have a lot more space to play with. But if you go with venue and you have 200 and you're going to max that venue out, most likely it's not. It's going to be extremely uncomfortable.
Very much so. Very much
So
so.
they have to, and again, that goes back to where you have to identify the type of venues that you're looking at too, because
Hmm.
that is every venue is different.
With spacing, with how they use the space, with how their space works for them, like um, there are a couple of venues I can think of right now that have about the same space, but the way they utilize, well, the way they're set up is so different. One looks a little bit bigger than the other one, but they have about the same amount of space.
Right.
There are two in particular in Fayetteville. Um, Studio, what is it, 215? And then you've got Skyview on Hay. Their ground floor, well, the ground floor of Skyview on Hay and Studio 215, they're about the same size. That front part of Skyview,
Right.
they're
Right.
about the
Right.
same
Right.
size, but the way they're laid out is a little bit different. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's not
Hmm.
just one big giant box. It's a little bit different in how they utilize the space or what's set up in their space. So yeah, they can both hold 200 people, but in all honesty, one is going to do a little bit better than the other one
Right.
with that
And
amount
then,
of people in there. Yeah, but
and that,
go ahead.
and see when you that those venues that you just talked about, those are completely blank campuses to where it's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So that when they say that 200, that means you have to make space for your dance floor area.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a big difference.
It does. It does.
And that I think that's what people have to understand is like just because they say it's 200, it needs to be clear for it needs to be a clarification. And that's one of the things I stress to some of the venues is please make sure that customers understand that when you say 200, that means that their dance floor there won't be a dance floor.
True.
So to me, I think that there's two configurations on an open. We have an open venue like the Intrigue venue. Oh, excuse me, not the Intrigue, but the Skyview and Studio 215. It should be pretty much say, okay, if you want a dance floor, then you don't want to go past 175 guests or something in that nature to make up for that
Yeah,
space.
but I think I don't know how to say this without sound like I'm nitpicking, but um, if the price is the same whether you have 100, 150, why not tell your clients or your customers it would be more reasonable if you only did X, Y, Z people. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
Because most venues charge the same price. Not all, but most charge the same price. But their pricing is usually based on the amount of time that you're
right.
utilizing the space for, and how many spaces within their building or their setup you're actually using. But to me, I feel like sometimes the venue representative has the biggest opportunity to give that positive reinforcement or at least give that positive information, say, hey, or a cautionary thing, like you may not want to go over X amount of people because this, and that, and the third will happen. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like why don't they ever do that though?
And I think that I don't know. I think that's the part that I'm trying to. If it's like they just want to get them in the building so they can make the sale, or that I don't know. That's the part that's confusing me because my clients they will max out the venue, not knowing that by maxing out that venue, that they won't have a dance floor area.
Mm-mm.
Hey, Summit. Hey, good morning. Okay.
My phone is already starting. Hey, Summit.
Hey, Summit.
So I
So
just
I think that's one of the things that clarification needs to be given because, like I said, and clients, and this is one of the biggest things is clients need to understand if you get a building that holds 200 people, please do not max that building out with 200 people.
mm-hmm.
It's going to make it very difficult for you to be able to really do a lot of stuff with your event.
Another thing is that you got to remember, not only are you having guests is sitting at tables in your event, you have to have your food tables, your gift tables,
Your
or
entertainment,
table, your
your
cake
dessert
tables,
table.
tables, your souvenir table, your guest of honor table. There's more stuff that's going on in the room. So not just fitting 25 tables, which is basically what you would it would take to do 200 guests. Literally, let's be a little bit more sensible than that. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
And then
Because that's a lot of tables.
yeah. And I think people have to understand too is if you're going all out, and see, this is where people get excited, and they'll go and they'll get all this entertainment, like they'll go get the 360 photo booth, they'll
I
go
do
get
too.
the catering, they'll
The
get this
band.
sweet. I remember one event, this sweet table, it was four tables just by itself. So it's kind of like all those, yes, it's crazy. And then the type of decor that you're going to use. If you're going to use balloons, if you're going to use different types of like lettering or special of like special things, all that plays into how much spacing that you need.
That's right.
And me, I always tell go like at least give yourself another if the venue it can hold 200, I would say don't go over 150.
Yeah, yeah. A fourth of that would be a better, number to shoot for, because at
Right.
least you're leaving room for people to flow through the room. Um, I think people don't think about like a band, a DJ area is what is it, 8 by 8 or 8 by 10?
8x5.
Okay, 8 by 5. Okay,
The
so
smallest, I think the smallest the DJ will go is 8x5. I mean, 8x8 is the big size, but 5x8 is pretty much the smaller size set up for a DJ.
okay, so let's just use the 8 by 8 as a general number. So that's the 8 by 8 space just for your DJ. Your then you've got your if you have a band, if you have a special area just for the guest of honor, or the bride and groom. I'm just gonna say bride and groom because we're usually talking about weddings. Um, there's so much that has to go on. Plus, you still got to have guests that can get back and forth to the buffet if you're having a
Hmm.
buffet. You got to have it where they can get back and forth to the room because who knows where the bathroom is. Every venue doesn't have the bathroom in the same exact spot, so you got to be able to
Right.
let them get to the restroom. What about those that need to step outside to smoke or something? Like they got to be able
Right.
to get where they got to go and come back. It's a lot of parts to it. I guess that's why we always say like you really should talk to your decorator, your planner, your DJ about these things. And then you got to think about your caterer where they're going to be set up in conjunction to the kitchen. You
Right.
know what I mean? And if the venue has a kitchen and where they're going to be set, it's a lot of pieces that go to that. That floor plan that we were talking about earlier, should we pull something like that up and just kind of show
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
to
We
fill
go
in?
pull it up.
Because a
Let
lot
me
of
pull it
things
up.
that people don't realize is that decorators and a lot of times your planner actually helps a client with getting the floor plan kind of figured out, but it's usually with the help of the venue. Um, and a lot of times they don't like to listen to the suggestions of a venue. But here's the thing: I'm not saying that every venue contact person is going to give you the most sound advice. But I am going to say this: a lot of times, venue owners or venue directors or managers, they usually know what works really, really well for their site based on how their space is set up, based on how, good morning, promise, based on how they've encountered problems in the past. A lot of times they go, "Ooh, that's not a good way to do that. Let's do it this way." You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to really be a little
Hmm.
flexible with how you want things to be set up, which I know a lot of times brides come up with their own vision of things, but sometimes your vision doesn't fit that box, so to speak.
Well, the one thing that um, the one thing that they forget about is the movement, the from point A to point C throughout the room, and then the
Mm-hmm.
entertainment piece. Is those are always the two that they always overlook. Then you also have like the bar area, you have like the kitchen area. So all those come into consideration to
Mm-hmm.
um, all the things you got to do. So you want to make up. You want to not go over, let's say, like say in this case, 150 guests, because 150 guests, you still have a little. It depends on the venue too. Sometimes is you still have a little flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
So in this floor plan here, um, this venue is like in situation. There's 200 max you can put into this room. So the designated dance floor area is right in the middle of the four columns. So looking at this venue, you see where the kitchen is at. You see where the doors in and out are at.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend for, like I said, in this case, the max amount of people,
I wouldn't
just
take
by
it to
looking at this layout, huh?
I wouldn't I definitely wouldn't take it to 200. Move just one table over. Because those are all 8 tops, right?
Those all, yep, 60-inch round.
Just move one over there and just to show like the limited amount of space. Because a 60-inch round, that's the table. That's 5 feet. You have to allow at least 8 feet of space per table, round space. Because you got
Right.
to consider the chairs being there, all of that, and people being able to get past it. That in itself, see, keep going. Where's your guest of honor sitting?
That's the question. That where would you want them to sit in this room?
Hmm,
See, me, the rule of thumb of what they teach us in school is you never put the head table near a heavy traffic area,
that's great. So not near the food.
so it won't be near the food. So I'm gonna throw a couple more tables out here just so people can see the spacing.
And how quickly it goes. Now that patio cocktail area, is that all glass there?
It's glass.
Hmm. That makes for a nice view. Yeah. You see that
So right
comment?
now, we're looking at that's 64 guests right there
Mm-hmm.
by itself.
Mm-hmm.
So by using 64 guests, and it looks like we're already taking up half of the room.
Almost.
So even if we come back in and we try to maneuver,
And then three more. Maybe four, but that's a whole lot of crowding on one side of the room. There you go. That's it. To me, I wouldn't think you want to do any more than that. You got to do it the other way because that one's blocking the door.
it would be it's yeah that technically that's just how far out the door opens.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So right now we got that's 12. 12 times 8, that's what, 84? No,
90.
that's 86. I mean 96, 96.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 96 right there.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's say your head table, let's say,
Over that other wall, away from the bar and the kitchen.
okay, let's see here. Got an issue right real quick. We gotta fix something. Ungroup. There we go. So here, let's say the head table area.
Mm-hmm.
Here now, over here, this is congested, but the things that we're missing is, okay, the kitchen is here. So if the kitchen is here, then most likely we'll want to put the food tables,
Right. And
especially if it's going
easy
to be
access.
buffet.
Mm-hmm. Because it's easy access for the, just so we're explaining it, it's easy access for the caterers because you can't, if you put them all the way across the room where the patio cocktail area is, you're running the risk of them spilling something on somebody, running into
Right.
somebody, stuff like that. So just to make it make sense to someone that's listening or watching, you put the food table as close to the kitchen area as or the prep area as you possibly can. That allows for them to have a short distance and not have to walk through the mainstream of traffic for the event.
And this is one of the things that, of course, as a DJ, it irks me the most is the placement of your entertainment. Your entertainment should have quick access to the dance floor. And the reason why I say that is if people want to dance, that DJ or that band should have like a good location to where they can interact with the guests on the dance floor.
True.
So in this case, there's two places you could put the entertainment, and you could either put them in front where it says LED TV, you can put them right there
Mm-hmm.
in front of there, or you can put them in front of this area. Now, I would say put them in front of the LED TV because then you still have this whole area to walk around. So
You're
like
kind of
here,
funneling people to that, to the other side. I get what you're saying.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So here we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna grab and we're gonna put we're just gonna say the entertainment. Uh, let me change that. So here,
And that's giving you at least your 5 by 8 space that we talked about.
right. So now you got here it is. Now you have all the space that you need for your guests to be comfortable. So right now you're looking at what 100. Like I said, this is 100. you're looking at roughly 100 people. And one thing I stress this to people, like, okay, what's your rule of thumb on tables? If you have a 60-inch round table, what's the max amount of people you're going to put at that table?
8. I know
Okay,
that some venues will put 10, but at this
it's
so overcrowded. 8
right,
is
and
the
that's
max.
why I stress to people. I mean, even in it's like the max, and like I said, if people will look it, take time to look it up, the max you're going to put at 60-inch round is 8 people. The max, like if you want to put 10, that's 72.
That's a 72-inch round
That's the
table, and a
72.
lot of venues do not carry tables that large.
Right. So what you're dealing with is you're dealing with venues that have 60, which the standard is 60 inch. So you're always going to plan in eights for your guests. Now you always can go down from 8, but I highly recommend you don't go past 8 for a 60-inch round table.
Uh-huh. But I think one of the things that people also look at is filling up space. So when you see all that space over there by the food, you do know that you'll have some people that want to stick food that want to stick guest tables over there.
Right. Oh, you know what? And let's see here. I just learned wheelchairs need a 5-foot spin radius.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the other things you got to take in consideration is you really have to take in consideration as far as like how many people need special like assistance, um,
Accommodations. That's correct.
accommodations and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of those things that people have to take, because like my biggest thing is the DJ. I always count on venues to have handicap ramps and things of that nature because it makes it easier for me to roll my equipment in
Mm-hmm.
using that. That's why I said most venues are required to have handicap accessory inside and out.
Usually. Good morning,
Usually.
Jackie. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, everyone. I see. I was sitting here building the flight. I didn't get a chance to see all this, everybody on here. But yes, so right off the bat, even and this is one of the things I stress to people is like in this situation, this venue is maxed at 200, but as of right now, as you can see, we already put 100 people in this building, and it's already taken up majority of the venue.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking at how you put in, like I said, you have your spacing for your entertainment and your food. Now you're pretty much there. So when you say a venue is maxed out at 200, you don't want to use 200. You don't want to put 200 people in that venue.
Here's the thing. All those other tables on the left-hand side of the screen, if you're going to do 200, they all have to fit in that space.
Right.
Where would they fit? Like, I need people to really see that. Where would they fit comfortably in that space? Good morning, Rhonda.
Good morning, Rhonda.
Where would they fit comfortably in that space?
And this was the reason why I wanted to do this is because a lot of people think that when a venue says they can do 200 max, like if we did 200 max, you would lose your dance floor.
Mm-hmm.
You will lose, or you will really lose your dance floor because you have no choice in this situation but to fill in that dance floor area. So
Correct.
when a venue tells you that they can do 200, you really got to take in consideration all things. Like let's say, for example, if I wanted to do a 360, affordable 360, where can I do
Where's
that
that
at?
going?
So like now, keep in mind this patio area is open. That's why it's yellow. It is open to the weather. It's covered, but it's open to the weather. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something you have to take into consideration. Now, could you put the 360 photo booth out here? Oh, yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to make sure the weather's going to be good. If it's too hot or too cold, that might cause a problem,
And then I still don't see a gift table, a cake table,
right? So if we go in
souvenir
and we
table.
put
If you need
those,
one of those.
so if we put one of those, if we go in and put those in there, so let's say okay, we go get a gift table. So we'll put gift table, and I'll just call G for now. And
Mm-hmm.
then
Cake table.
okay, so here you now have freed up some space. Now, if like I said, This really right here is comfortable. This is extremely comfortable.
But I need to add 5 more tables to it. Then what?
Then it's going to get tight. So let's say if you're planning for 100, like right now this is 96. If you're planning for 100, you're good because you can get away with putting one or two more tables in here with no problem. But let's say if you want to do 200, it is going to be so tight in this room that and this is the part that people have to understand is you start, let's say, look, let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and fill this up, and then you're going to see how bad this is going to go.
So they're going to be in the way of the food table. So when people go up to the buffet, they're going to have to try to get around those that have sat back in their chairs, or the ones that are sitting along the side where the food is, got to scoot all the way up. So there's a whole nother scenario right there for them. Keep going.
So right now
17.
we just added, what is that?
17 tables.
17 tables total.
136 people.
So this is 136 for a venue that's max for 200. Now, if you're in a situation where, okay, you want to add more people,
Dance floor gone immediately.
and where we at now?
Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh, we're at 19. Oh my word. We're at 19. Hold on.
So 19 tables, that leaves us with how much space? I mean, not how much space, but how many guests does that give us?
Just shy of what, 150, I think. Let me see. Times
I'm gonna do 19 times 8.
152. Am I doing that right?
Yep, 152.
Yeah.
So that's why, and this is one of those things to where you really have to understand the venue and know what you're dealing with.
Because what I love is when people say, "Oh, well, it says it hosts 200, so then I can do 200 people." I'm thinking, no, your food, your bar, your DJ, your um, band if you have one, your food tables, your this everything else that has to fit in there besides those guest tables. Now,
Right.
what they're giving you is what the fire marshal told them they can hold this many people in that space.
Right, absolutely.
That's really what they're telling you.
That's
So
exactly what they're telling you.
yeah,
But see,
so when they say, yeah, we can do 200 guests, blah, blah, okay, listen, the fire marshal is not caring about your entertainment, your food tables. He's not thinking about, he's just telling you how many people can fit in that room, and that's it. That's the max. That
right,
doesn't mean that's how many people you should put in that room.
absolutely. And
Because
that's why I said that in most cases, like in this case, like see, we're at 152,
mm-hmm.
and you see what we're working with.
We lost our dance floor.
We completely lost our dance floor. So if we have to go back, so let's go back and let's remove. And I want to stress to people, this is not the standard for every venue,
No,
but
no.
this just gives you an idea of how it works. Okay, so now we remove our two tables. We kind of like max out the
So we're
most
at
usable
136
space.
now.
So we're at 136.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spent, even though we added three tables and we kind of spread them out so people can walk over to the food and back, it's still kind of congested, but it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
It will work. So a venue that's designed for 200 people max, technically, if you're trying to have entertainment and a dance floor, is not going to, you're pretty much not going to, in this case, you're only going to plan for 132 for this venue.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's pretty accurate right there because you still got your photographer has to get around through the room. If you have a
right,
videographer, they got to get around through the room. Your cake designer, or whoever is cutting your cake has to be able to get access to that. It's like so many different moving parts that have to be considered, and you
right.
don't want everybody sitting at the table all night because that means they're bored to half to death. So you got to expect to have a dance floor because people want to get up and dance, and it has to be
And this
space
is
enough for that many people to get on the floor. If your DJ is popping like I know they usually should be, you got a dance floor full of folk, full of folk.
let's see what Brad said. Yes, it does. But this is one thing that I just wanted to really stress this to people because a lot of people who don't understand the business
Mm-hmm.
don't understand how to plan the usage of a venue. And even when, and then most of the time, if I like to say, all the venues we work, we know what the max capacity should be for that venue. It's
Mm-hmm.
always should be less than what they say because, like, when I hear people go, let's say for example, for Sky Villa, very beautiful venue. Um, they I think they said they can hold up to 120
Yeah,
max
but
upstairs,
that shouldn't be the
and
number. It
yeah,
should
if you
be
can do
more like 80
120.
maximum. Like real talk, it should
Right.
be more
It
like
should be
80
80.
maximum.
It should be 80 maximum because you still have to make space for your food and your
Mm-hmm.
entertainment.
Now
So
they do
you're
have
gonna
that bar that's kind of behind the thing, which is
right,
fine behind the wall, but which
right.
has got a peep out, a cutout wall. But your DJ, I would highly suggest not to have a band there ever because they're going to take up way too much space. Um,
Absolutely.
your cake setup, your food setup, it's so much to do. Like basically in any event that you're doing, be it a wedding or anything else, there's so many other added pieces to the puzzle that you have to consider it. And I've done enough weddings there at that particular venue to know 80 should be your maximum there because
Right.
it gets overcrowded very, very quickly in there.
So what we're working with right now is if we're doing 100, like this, even though this venue, the max for this venue, and I just want to type this in on the side, the max for the venue is 200. But with entertainment and everything else, the what you're going to get is 132 guests.
What kind of percentage is that?
Let's see here. So if we do the math, 132 over 200, we're looking at, let's see here,
About
132.
67% of what it's saying. I usually say like in thirds. I always provide, divide them in thirds when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
this seating and stuff like that. But literally, you're taking over almost a third of the guests that it says it allows off of that, just to
Right.
make sure you have space for what you need. I usually say thirds, but because if I'm working with 100, if a venue says 100 people, I'm automatically taking a third of that off and saying you might want to max out at 70. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But or 30%. If you just say that, take 30% off of what the building max says. And if you take 30% off of 200, you're down to like 140, which is give or take about where we are right now
Yeah. Because like right
in
now
that.
we're looking at, and if
That's just a lot to try to squeeze up in there. And then let's be honest. Okay, when you're doing a wedding, you're spending money on different things, on all different aspects. Everything involved with it costs you money. But how disappointing would it be that your guests arrive at your reception space, find that it's overly crowded? I can't bring my grandma in because you don't have enough room for her wheelchair and that 5 foot radius spin around thing for her to come in. But you pay for X amount of guests to eat. But me and my husband and my mother, we leave, or my grandma, we leave because we can't find a comfortable spot in the space. So
right,
you have to, when I say you have to be considerate of your guests, yes, I know it's your day, but you're inviting these folk to enjoy this day with you. So at some point, their comfort has to come into place. It has to,
absolutely.
you know what I'm saying? And I know that may sound funny that I'm saying that, but that's true. You have to consider their comfort as well, because you're not going to have a great event if you have all these tables set up and only half of them filled. And we've seen that before ourselves at several
Now,
events.
now I got one question for you. Now looking at this floor plan, just looking at this floor plan, how are you going to make a grand entrance in?
You only have the doors at the top and now here, but you gotta maneuver all through all these tables. And
So
so
at what?
I'm gonna move them to the dance floor maybe that way, but that's gonna be hard and tricky.
So now we have to move maybe this one table up just a little bit, just to give them a direct shot to the dance floor.
Which table?
Right here by the
Yeah.
door at the very bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me hold on. Let me go back to the. So what I did was right here
That's the
and
grand
go
entrance doors.
directly
Mm-hmm.
to the dance floor.
Because
That's
they're
going
gonna
to
have
be
to
the great.
maneuver
That
through
would have
that
to be the
little
grand entrance
space.
door because this door
It's way too far away.
right at the top is what goes to the bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like the main entrance into the venue,
Mm-hmm.
and then this goes to the restrooms, to a
Now
hallway
it has to
area.
be
There's a
that lower
restrooms over
one.
there.
Yeah, it has to be the one that's just below the LED
Right.
and entertainment part. And shifting that table means you're shifting that whole side over there over some just to make sure they have a straight shot to their dance floor. Because there's no other way to do it. Because you have so many people. Now, if you took
Absolutely. So
some
so
tables
pretty much
out of
what we're
there,
gonna. Uh-oh.
huh? What happened? Okay.
There we go. No, I hit the button by mistake.
It's okay.
So pretty much then now what we're looking at then is if we're going to so what takes up space, and I want to like I said I want to highlight this space requirements. And space requirements we need that, so in this case we had to look out for the caterer, entertainment. Oh, spell it wrong.
Photographer being able to float through the room, videographer being able to float through the room.
Well, I mean walkways, because you'll need that. You'll need that across the board for everybody.
Yeah,
Entrance,
grand entrance. That's pretty much everybody's interest right there.
mm-hmm.
Accessible. That's correct.
So these are all different things that are going to take away your space. And see, in most cases, and this is one of the things I stress to my vendors, is you need to define your space in your contract.
Mm-hmm.
I know most caterers require that they have 3 8-foot tables.
Mm-hmm.
Some four for the beverages, or if there's dessert, they ask for four. But the normal requirement is always 3 8-foot tables.
That's correct.
So people have to take all the consideration, and then of course, if they're serving, that's more space that they have to give because now they have to get behind those tables.
Mm-hmm.
So, like in this case, we have the tables against the wall, but in reality, those tables all got to come out at least 2 feet away from the wall so they can get back there and serve them.
Mm-hmm. And if a table is only 30 inches across, not left to right, but like the short ways 30 inches, so
Mm-hmm.
that's 2.5 feet of width of a chair of the table. You got to add another 2 feet to that, so you're talking about almost 5 feet of space out from the wall for the tables to fit
Yep.
and servers. And I know they think we're crazy, but that's a part of how we have to determine what can fit in the room and what can't. You have to you literally have to measure everything.
Absolutely.
For accountability purposes. You have to measure everything.
So when people go and this is the thing I stress to people, when you're going to look at venues, you got to actually in your mind draw out your floor plan on how you want things to flow
Mm-hmm.
throughout that room. And just like I said, in this situation here, we just showed how a venue that's designed for 200, but in reality, you're only going to fit 132 in that venue because of all
Comfortably.
your additional requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people to understand that just because they say 200 doesn't mean you're going to invite 200 guests. And this is the biggest mistake that a lot of clients make is they'll
Mm-hmm.
go get a venue. Now, and this is one of the things I tell people. If you're going to invite 200 guests, you need a venue that can sit 300.
There you go.
So it's kind of almost like go up at least 100 than what you're looking for. So
You
let's
got to
say if
make
you're doing a venue, like in this case, if you was going to invite 100 guests, this venue is perfect.
mm-hmm.
So that's the rule of thumb is the venue. Now, keep in mind now, let's say you go back and you have a venue that has a designated dance floor. Let's say like Intrigue. Intrigue is a very unique venue because it has a built-in dance floor and they can hold up to 150 people and they have an extended room to where they can do 200.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And that's
that
different. Yeah.
venue is different because it has a designated dance floor area. So can it hold 200? Absolutely. But look, but the biggest thing is to be comfortable. I still will not go past 150 guests, even though it does have a designated dance floor. I think the only time I seen I saw the Intrigue venue, it had 250 people in it, but they had no dance floor. That means they actually set up tables on the designated dance floor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I want people to get in the practice of when you're going and you're looking for venues, and this is a mistake a lot of customers make because I know like I have one venue coming up, they the venue itself can hold what is it, maybe 150, and I think the Catlett Farm, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it can probably hold up to 150, but guess what?
I wouldn't
Um
do it.
I would never do it because it'll be impossible to walk in and out of that building.
Y'all, please ignore my phone ringing. I'm just ignoring it right now. In Catlett, when we added those extra tables for an event we did last year, we literally limited the space so much by doing
Right,
that. Even though the kitchen is off to one side, where the buffet
right.
line is off to the side and
Hmm.
everything, it still like ate up so much space adding those extra tables in there.
Right,
I would never want to go over 100 in that place. It's so
right.
beautiful and it loses something when it's overcrowded.
And I think that's where people, and I think this was, and I want, and the thing is, for all those out there that are planning events, you really need to understand what you're asking for, or what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go out here and you get a venue for 200 guests, and then you invite 200 guests, you just shot yourself in the foot. You still got to make sure you have enough spacing for any of your entertainment that you're going to do, your food, your catering, all the above. So people really need to understand that. Like let's say Hope Mill Shrine, another
Mm-hmm.
perfect example. Hope Mill
Built-in dance
Shrine
floor, got a stage,
got
everything.
got everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I would never go past 250 people for that little venue.
I I don't know if I would go past 230 in there, only because it gets crowded on that wall right there where the
Mhm.
kitchen is. And
Right,
usually we would stick tables on those little
right,
pieces right there, but that area gets really crowded very easily. I don't know about two. Well, I agree, no more than 250, but I probably would say no more than maybe 230 or
right. Because
something
it
like
says
that.
300 because that venue
Yeah.
is it can do 300, but with 300 again, there's no dance floor. That's you're limiting your space. It's going to be hard to maneuver to go to the bathrooms. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what it is that you have to give yourself enough space to walk. So I want people to get out of the habit of maxing out the venue based off of what they tell you.
Again,
They
that's
can
the
tell you,
fire marshal. The fire
right,
marshal gave
that's
them
just
that
a fire
number. That
marshal
doesn't
thing.
really mean it makes
That
sense.
means that's as much you can get away with. So we don't want to
Yeah.
max out I mean, the biggest thing is you want to give yourself enough space to where you can maneuver to the restrooms, to the
Hmm.
bar, to the food, and you don't want to take away your floor, your dance floor, or your entertainment.
That's
Now, if
correct.
there's just a show, and there's not going to be any dancing, then okay, maybe you could do away with your dance floor and you're good. But again, you just don't want your area to be so congested to where it's impossible to maneuver people. Because my thing is, some people they get kind of panicky when there's too many people in the room.
Yeah,
So
that is
that's just
called anxiety.
right,
Not to laugh because I get it sometimes myself, so not to laugh. But yeah, anxiety. And it can be overwhelming when you cannot get past people without bumping somebody or having to say, excuse me, this person, you're trying to ease your way by. And it just becomes a lot. It becomes a lot, especially for your guests. And again, you want your guests, you wanted these people to be here to enjoy this day with you. Make sure they're able to actually enjoy it with you.
right.
Just an idea. Well, Mario, thank you for the floor plan we got to play with today.
You're welcome.
That was kind of cool. So if you're planning out a party or whatever wedding, especially, not that anything else is not important, but weddings can really be crucial. Make sure that you're aware of your spacing. Um, Talk to your venue about what normally works for their setups. Talk to your planner about what he or she would suggest. Talk to your decorator about what he or she would suggest, and talk to your DJ
Right,
about what he or she would suggest, because those things, those professionals have the experience to guide you better than you just kind of guessing at it. You know what I mean? So
right.
it's a lot
And I
better.
express this to the vendors. I mean, don't get me wrong, the venue only can do but so much, but
Hmm.
vendors need to really stress to their clients how much space they like. Me, I always tell my vendor, I always plan for me to have at least an 8x5 space of area. I know
Hmm.
for bands, in most cases, most bands require 10 by 10 feet worth of space. In some cases even bigger if they have a larger band. But that's something that's a planning factor. That's a major planning factor that people need to understand is
Hey, Sharice.
think. But that's something that, and that's why I say I had to do this because I've seen it happen too many times this year
Hmm.
alone, where the client has maxed out the room, and it just like I said, it's like they just don't understand how bad that makes it for the event. It comes a clutter because like one thing I stress to people, you can have the best decor in the world,
Hmm.
but if it's a cluster and everything's on top of it, it looks terrible.
And
It look like a train wreck.
here's another thing, not to cut you off, but just to throw this in there real quick. When we're looking at this floor plan, right? And so we actually designated where the dance floor is. You
Hmm.
don't send this to all your guests. So your dance floor has to be a defined area that they recognize to be an actual dance floor. Like,
Right,
I think sometimes people forget they're not there with you during this entire planning process, or cultivating it with you. You're not sending them to say, hey, by the way, between tables 1, 2, and 3, and between tables 9, 10, 11, there's going to be a dance floor. You're not. It needs to be visible. It needs to be something they can identify as a dance area. And that's
right,
just me just speaking out, because in my mind I'm thinking about the venues that don't have defined dance floors. You know what
right.
I'm saying?
Absolutely,
And if you
right.
don't leave the space for them, the people are going to sit at the table all night, and it's going to like they're not having any fun because they're not even sure where the hell they're supposed to go dance at. You ever think about that?
Absolutely.
Just saying.
And and this is one of the things that, and again, this is I'm talking from the DJ standpoint.
Hmm.
You got to put the DJ, if it's a DJ, or even if it's a band, you got to put us near the dance floor.
Hmm.
That's the whole thing. Is if there is a dance floor available, they need to be placed by the dance floor. Putting the DJ in the corner is you're doing yourself a disservice by putting the DJ away from the dance floor. And that's where it aggravates me sometimes is that they'll put decor over the DJ, and it's like, that's terrible. You really want to put the DJ in near the dance floor,
Mm-hmm.
because like in some, like let's say for example, if I'm doing light effects or if I'm doing the monogram, and don't get me wrong, the monogram can stand on its own. It doesn't have to be connected. It's not connected to the DJ station, but it's better
Mm-hmm.
because all the equipment is together.
And people
When
are
you
tripping
put a
over cord.
monogram pole system by itself, somebody's going to hit that pole.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's going to bump that pole. In some cases, they're going to knock that pole down. But if that pole is near the DJ equipment, nobody's going to walk through the DJ equipment. So that's one of the biggest disconnects that a lot of people do is they think, oh, the DJ can just go put in the corner. And they put us in timeout away from everything. But then, like, and again, it's like one of the main venues I get put in the corner is Studio 215. And what does it do? Like, okay, yeah, we can set our stuff up separate, but now you got DJ equipment scattered throughout the entire room just to make up for being in the corner.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that
So,
DoubleTree event we did a couple of years ago, and we had you off to one side, and I was just like frustrated because I was like, I really didn't want to put you that far away from the floor. I felt like I know that was only like 12 feet away from the dance floor, but it was still a gap to me.
right.
Have you back over in that side like that? I
But
was
that's
just
why
thinking
I
about
always say designate, always try to put the entertainment as close to the dance floor as
that.
possible.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Gotcha.
and again, people don't, I get it. People get excited. They're planning their event. And guess what? They go in, oh, the venue said we could do 200. So we're going to invite 200 guests. All I'm saying is you just shot yourself in the foot.
Well, not necessarily they invite 200 guests because it doesn't mean 200 guests are going to show up. But to me, you
But
should
that's still a
be
risk, though.
more realistic about your number.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I
You
mean,
can
my
invite
thing is,
100 people and only expect for 150 of them to show up, which is great. But I don't recommend that. I like some people say, oh, I'm sending an invitation to my aunt so and so as a souvenir. And next thing you know, Aunt so and so is bringing her husband and her 2 adult children, and they've already RSVP'd. They coming back. What?
right. That's why I said that. And that's what I said. You don't want to invite 200. Like I say, in the worst case scenario, invite only 100.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's going to happen is if they bring a significant other
They get
with
200 right.
them, you're going to max yourself out. And I think that's where people, and that's again, an invitation normally is designed for two.
Mm-hmm.
So if
But yeah,
you're,
we've had some incidents of people written in names,
right,
a whole bunch
absolutely.
of them.
So that's why I said that you have to be very detailed on what the requirement is when you send your invites out. You
Mm-hmm.
only can bring an additional person, one person. Okay, that is something that needs to be clarified because I've seen it happen so many times where you have these families, these big families, and they decide they're going to bring Aunt Juju and cousin Junebug as second or as third and fourth guests with the
Mm-hmm.
ones that they have total. So people, and then RSVP. Okay, this is something I'm gonna spend a moment on this. People need to understand RSVPing is not an option.
Mm, mm, mm.
If you are going to an event and someone is asking you to RSVP, it is critical that don't just assume that they're going to count you in because that RSVP is critical. That is how they plan how much food they're going to have. That's how much money that all that money is because like when you RSVP, and I know everyone's been hearing it lately where people have RSVP to the event and didn't show up and then they get a bill
That's right.
for 200 or 300 something dollars because they didn't show up because that's money that was put out there for you to attend. So
Even
when some,
on even on a just to say an average number, um, when people are doing weddings, they're spending anywhere between I'm gonna use a low number, maybe 75 to maybe $150 per person.
you go 150 to 200
I'm
now,
I'm giving you a low number
right?
depending on the situation. So if you don't show up, that's a seat that they have prepared for you. That's a plate or two they have prepared for you. The drinks they have prepared, like all this stuff was prepared for you, a space for you to be there to celebrate with them. Why would you be so rude to somebody and say I'm coming and then don't show up? That is like so rude to me. And I don't
And
understand when people do it. And people have asked me, how do I feel about people sending the bills? I'm like, I send the bill because you spent the money.
and
You know, it's
and
not right.
and I think that's where when it comes to RSVPing, okay, if you're not going to stay for the reception, you need to make sure that's clear when you RSVP for a wedding. I noticed that for a lot of my weddings, what happens is a lot of people will show up for the ceremony, but
And
then
then
they'll
leave.
leave.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest part about RSVPing is more so for the decor and food for the actual reception.
Mm-hmm. Because the
So
numbers affect how many tables we have to have, how many centerpieces we have to have, how many chair covers we have to have, those or sashes, whatever. It also affects how many plates of food have to be prepared for.
right. So that's why I tell people most time it's in it. And again, I know black when it comes to black people, it seems like it's like RSVP is their kryptonite. They don't want to do it. But they gotta start learn. I mean, it's like in most of my event, and I say that because of out of the almost 900 events I've done within the last 10 years, the most difficult people to RSVP or black people.
Mm.
Um, and we need to do better across the board. I don't
Not,
care. I mean, right? I'm gonna say this: it doesn't matter about race or anything. Everybody needs to
yeah.
do the right thing. Period. But I'm just stressing that people need to understand RSVPing is very critical in the
Well,
planning process.
one thing that I do recommend, this is going to be my last comment, but one thing I recommend to all of my clients when they're doing their invitations is to go ahead and pre-stamp the RSVP envelope, pre-address it, pre-stamp it. Because that way, when the person gets their invitation, they fill out the RSVP, they can put it right back in there and drop it right back in the mail and don't have to run about. Because some people don't keep, like I happen to be an old lady at this point because I keep stamps in my purse all the time. I always have some in my wallet or I have them in my briefcase or something like that. But not everybody keeps stamps like that because not everybody mails letters on a regular or anything like that. So to me, it makes more sense and it's a little bit easier because I've seen people put them on the refrigerator and forget about them, leave them in their purse, forget about them, have them in their desk drawer, forget about them, have them on the refrigerator, just whatever, forget all about them, and keep looking at it whether it's now it's disappeared in their eyes, have it on their mirror of their dresser or something. But if you go ahead and label it and already have a stamp on it, you'll get it back much faster.
Well, and I'm even going to do one better is give them the option to where if you don't want to do pre-stamp, you make it an option to where it's electronically, to where they can go
Yeah,
in and do it
which I'm really
electronically. I
liking
mean,
those options these days.
yeah, that's always a good way because it's easy access. It don't take them but 2 to 5 minutes to fill out an RSVP and lock it in.
That'll be our age
But
group and younger though, because people like mama are not going to do that.
right, right. That's why
Yeah.
I say you do both. You
Mm-hmm.
send it to where you have an option to do electronically
Mm-hmm.
or send it back in.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this is the planning factor, and this is like all ties into the venue. Is when you're deciding to choose a venue, you really have to understand what you're like. And my biggest thing here was just I want to show people, like when someone says a venue can hold up to 200 people, and then you actually start planning it out on your floor plan. This is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
200 people means only 132 guests.
And keep in mind, we didn't fit all the other 9 tables over there that needed to go over there to
Right.
make 200. That was going to be ridiculous. But anyway, so I love it. I hope everybody got something good out of this today because it's really more so just about giving a teaching lesson for the day. Um, just keep in mind when you're looking at your venues and you're looking at your guest list, be realistic about what you're doing. I've had a client that sent out 80 invitations and ended up with 230 something people that showed up. Be realistic because people are going to and be clear with your invitations. Don't let your Sarah pass on adding 3 people to hers, but then you block your cousin from adding 2 people to hers. You know what I'm saying? So keep it
Right.
common sense wise and keep it consistent. If your invitation is for you, that person that you invited plus one, then let it stay to that because that helps with your numbers. That also
Absolutely.
affects your pockets, but definitely affects your numbers.
And then, like I said, understand the type of venue that you're
Mm-hmm.
working with. When you have venues that have open spacing and nothing is designated, that's where you have to be a little bit more understanding creative on the spacing that's needed. I
That's
know there's
correct.
quite a few venues out there that are wide open like facilities. Most of the time, the hotel rooms, the was it the basketball court or the type of open venue type scenarios that
Mm-hmm.
are open. Be prepared to mark out spacing for all your stuff that's required to support your event first
Mm-hmm.
before you start coming up with numbers of how you want to invite. A lot of people just, hey, I'm just going to invite 200 and y'all just going to make it work. That might not go out too well.
No.
So, but I would say the first thing you do, get your venue, do a floor plan first before you start to come up with how many people you're going to invite. Really do that. But all right, so do you have anything else, Tish? Tish? Oh, did she freeze up? Okay, I think she froze up on me. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude our show for today. I hope this information was very, very helpful, and we will see you next time.